The World Economic Forum projects a $400 trillion retirement gap by 2050. That number is not a rounding error. It is 5 times the size of the entire global economy. And a beehive already knows exactly what causes it. More importantly, it knows the only way out. What you are watching right now is not random aggression. This is fiscal policy, executed without parliament, without debate, without mercy. And it is the only reason this colony survives. Start in summer. The hive economy is running at full capacity. Tens of thousands of worker bees forage daily, converting nectar into honey, the colony's only reserve capital. They build the comb. They regulate temperature. They feed the young. Every worker contributes. The system is solvent. But not every member of this system works. Drones, the male bees, produce nothing. They don't forage. They don't build. They don't defend the hive. They exist for one single biological function: to mate with a queen from another colony. And while they wait for that moment, workers feed them directly, mouth to mouth, on demand, every day. In economic terms, this is a direct wealth transfer, from producers to non-producers, built into the colony's biology. Summer can absorb this, a massive productive workforce feeding a relatively small dependent class. The ratio holds, the math works. But the ratio never holds forever. As August arrives, the season turns. Flowers thin out. Nectar flow drops. The number of foraging trips falls sharply. But the number of drones doesn't fall with it. They're still inside the hive, still consuming, still being fed. The productive population is contracting. The dependent population is holding constant. This is demographic collapse in biological form. Not because the dependent class grew, because the productive class shrank, and the system kept paying out at the same rate regardless. Every developed economy on Earth is living this exact graph right now. Declining birth rates, longer lifespans, a retiring generation drawing benefits funded by a smaller workforce beneath them. The World Economic Forum calculates that the US retirement gap alone will reach $137 trillion by 2050. Not because Americans suddenly became more expensive, because the ratio between contributors and recipients broke, and nobody has a hard mechanism to fix it. The hive faces this same break every single year, and it has a response. Here's what makes the math brutal. In winter, the hive produces nothing. 0 foraging, 0 incoming nectar, 0 new capital entering the system. The colony survives entirely on what it stored during summer. Every drone kept alive through winter is honey that does not go toward that survival. Every feeding transfer to a non-producing male is a direct draw on a finite reserve. Economists call this a capital burn rate, the speed at which reserves deplete against 0 new income. Pension funds know this number well. It's the metric that determines how many years a fund survives once benefit payments consistently exceed incoming contributions. The hive's burn rate with drones present is unsustainable through winter. There is no credit line available to it, no bond it can issue, no central bank to intervene. The reserve either lasts until spring or the queen dies. And if the queen dies, there is no colony next year. This is the exact arithmetic behind $400 trillion in global retirement promises. Benefit payments growing faster than contributions. Reserves being drawn down to cover a gap that compounds at 4 to 5% annually. faster than most economies are growing. The math is the same whether you're a hive or a government. The only difference is what happens when the math runs out. The hive's response begins quietly. First, workers simply stop feeding the drones. No announcement, no phase-out period. The food transfers stop. Then comes the physical removal. Workers bite the drones' wings. They bite their legs. They physically drag them toward the hive entrance. This is the part nobody tells you. These workers are biting their own brothers. Every drone in this hive is a biological sibling, born from the same queen. The workers expelling them are their sisters, and they do it anyway, because the alternative is a colony that starves to death before March. Any drone who tries to return is blocked at the door. Outside, with no ability to forage and no shelter as temperatures fall, the drone is dead within days. Economists call what this hive is doing a structural adjustment, the same term used when the IMF forces a country to cut pension benefits, raise retirement ages, or slash welfare programs to avoid sovereign default. The hive executes it in a single event. No parliament votes on it, no election determines whether it happens, no protest movement delays it. The decision is made at the level of biology, and it is made before the reserve runs out, not after. That timing is the entire point. Here is the real crisis the $400 trillion number is describing. Not that the math is hard. The math is not hard. Every pension actuary on Earth already knows what the numbers say. The crisis is that human welfare systems are structurally incapable of doing what this hive does. A hive has a trigger. When foraging output drops below a threshold and daylight shortens past a certain point, the expulsion begins automatically. No discretion, no committee, no appeal process. The mechanism fires. The colony adjusts. The reserve is protected. Human welfare states don't have this trigger. They have elections instead. And no elected government in modern history has voluntarily cut pension benefits significantly before the crisis forced them to. They extend the deadline. They borrow against future contributions. They raise the retirement age by months, not years, and call it reform. The WEF's retirement gap is growing at 4 to 5% per year, faster than the global economy is expanding, which means every year of inaction makes the eventual adjustment larger, not smaller. The hive understood this 30 million years ago. A small, early, total adjustment beats a catastrophic late collapse. Cut the drones in August and the colony sees spring. Wait until January and the reserve is gone, the queen is dead, and there is no spring to see. You now understand why the hive survives the exact crisis-breaking pension systems across the developed world. Not because it found a way to grow the reserve faster, because it has a mechanism that fires before the reserve runs out. Human economies have the math. They've had the math for decades. What they don't have is the trigger. And without it, the gap keeps growing, 4 to 5% every year, compounding quietly, while the drones stay inside.